There comes a moment in a man's life, a quiet, sobering moment, when something he never thought possible happens. The fire dims. The woman he once couldn't stop thinking about now barely stirs anything in him. Her touch, once magnetic, feels familiar, almost mechanical. He isn't angry. There's no one else. It's not betrayal, it's something deeper, something stranger. He's seeing clearly for the first time. And that is terrifying. He's not broken. He's not malfunctioning. He's awakening. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, sharp, unflinching, brutally honest, saw this long before the rest of us did. He said that what we call love isn't some gift from the heavens. It's a trick, a setup, a biological compulsion designed not for your happiness, but for the species. That thing we dress up in poetry, movies, and promises. It's not about you. It's about reproduction. The real goal of all love stories isn't romance, it's the composition of the next generation. Let that sink in. The butterflies, the obsession, the sleepless nights, an overwhelming need to be near her. That wasn't fate. That was DNA pulling your strings. You weren't choosing, you were being chosen. And once nature gets what it wants, or once it realizes it won't, the spell breaks, the veil lifts, and the hunger, it fades. And suddenly, you're left wondering, what happened to me? But nothing's wrong with you. You didn't lose your spark. You just stepped outside the illusion. You're not malfunctioning. You're finally seeing reality for what it is. And no one tells men this. No one prepares you for it. You heard it on the podcast. The myth that men are these unstoppable machines of sexual desire, it's just that. A myth. The truth is, our Dr. Dive is incredibly selective. It burns hot in the beginning when things are new, mysterious, and polarized. But bring routine into the picture. Watch it die. That primal fire thrives on tension, not comfort, on contrast, not similarity. Modern living cohabitation, emotional transparency, merging every part of two lives into one, that's what snuffs it out. And yet we keep thinking it's romantic. We think sharing every thought, every meal, every errand will keep the passion alive. But Schopenhauer would have laughed. He'd say you're dissecting a dream and wondering why it no longer sings. You've put your sacred instinct under fluorescent lights and expected it to still glow. Desire can't survive overexposure. That's not philosophy, that's observable reality. Ever heard of the Westermarck effect? It's a real psychological phenomenon. People who grow up in close sibling-like conditions develop an automatic, unconscious repulsion to sexual intimacy with one another. Not because they resist temptation, but because the attraction doesn't even register. That's biology. That's nature protecting the gene pool. Now think about that in the context of long-term relationships. A man sees the same woman every day, hears the same voice, shares the same routines. The mystery fades. The spark dies. The relationship doesn't become deeper, it becomes familiar, like family. And familiarity doesn't breed intimacy, it breeds indifference. That's what Schopenhauer tried to warn us about. That your drive isn't about happiness, it's about the species. And when the species is no longer being served, the instinct retreats. Not out of bitterness, but by design. You're not defective, you're just finally free to see it. And that freedom, at first, it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like loss, like numbness. You wonder if you're depressed. You ask yourself, what's wrong with me? But nothing's wrong. You're just waking up. You're stepping out of the trance. Schopenhauer offers something no self-help guru, no therapist, no dating coach will ever give you. Dignity. Philosophical dignity, he says plainly. When the fire fades, it's not a flaw, it's a signal. The job is done. You're free now, if you're brave enough to be. But here's the part no one says aloud. Freedom can feel like emptiness. Peace doesn't come with trumpets and applause. It doesn't look like ecstasy. It can look like withdrawal, like detachment, like indifference. But it's not apathy, it's clarity. Schopenhauer called sexual desire the most powerful of all cravings. He said it overwhelms the mind like madness. And what happens when madness lifts? You don't collapse. You don't break, you see. You finally see. You look at her, this woman who once seemed like magic, and now, you just see her, as she is. Human, familiar, no longer a symbol, no longer a myth, just a person. And even if you still love her, even if you respect her, the obsession is gone. The spell is broken. That's not failure. That's sobriety. Schopenhauer put it best. The lover thinks he's chasing his own happiness, but he's actually serving something outside himself, the species. That's the betrayal. That all the longing, all the poetry, all the desperation, it wasn't fully yours. It was a system using you for a goal you didn't choose. And when that goal is no longer in play, everything feels hollow. Modern relationships make it worse. They accelerate the decay. Why? Because they strip away tension. They kill polarity. All the small practical things, shared bathrooms, calendars, routines, they're not just conveniences. They're eros killers. Desire thrives on distance, on novelty, on contrast. But live together long enough, and you lose all of that. You become too known. And when a woman becomes completely known, the masculine mind stops projecting fantasy onto her. She's no longer a mystery, she's mapped. She's normalized, and when mystery dies, so does the fire. It's not just physical, it's psychological. Men are driven not just by looks, but by the possibility that something is just out of reach. That's the real turn-on, the chase, the potential. And when there's nothing left to chase, the mind and the body moves on. And here's the real tragedy. Society shames men for this. We're called immature, selfish, ungrateful, but we're just responding to something ancient, something biological, something Schopenhauer already understood. The will to life doesn't care about your comfort. It pushes you until you've done your job, then it leaves. And when it leaves, you're left holding the shell. Familiar, warm, but empty now. Some men cling to that shell out of guilt. Others chase novelty, fairs, fantasies, addictions. But none of that works long term, because they're still caught in the same misunderstanding that the fire is something they're supposed to keep alive. But the truth is, that fire was never meant to last. It was meant to push you toward something nature wanted. Once it's done, it dies. And that's where we'll pick up next in part 2, where we explore what comes after the fire goes out, and how to transform this disillusionment into true liberation. So the fire fades, the illusion breaks, the craving disappears, and you're standing there, surrounded by routines, by familiarity, by a relationship that still works on paper, but doesn't stir your soul, and the world tells you some things. Rangyo told you should still want her like you did on day one, that real love shouldn't change, that the problem must be you, your hormones, your maturity, your attention span. But Schopenhauer, he tells you something radical. He tells you the truth. He tells you that the loss of desire isn't a malfunction, it's a message. It's the completion of nature's mission. That thing inside you, that deep, burning instinct, it wasn't designed to last forever. It was designed to get you somewhere. And now that you're there, or now that nature sees she won't take you there, let's go. You're free. But freedom feels lonely at first. There's no ceremony for the death of longing, no language for the moment when the chase is over, but the finish line feels meaningless. So what do men do? Most suffer in silence. They blame themselves. They try to revive a passion that's already been spent, and they wonder why nothing works. Because no one ever told them, you were never meant to always want her. What kept the spark alive wasn't just love, it was distance. It was uncertainty. It was the space between you. And once that disappears, once her habits, moods, patterns, even her silences become predictable, the spark has nowhere to live. Polarity disappears. And without polarity, there's no charge. In ancient cultures, that charge was preserved by structure. Men spent most of their time apart from women, from family life. They were out working, hunting, building. They shared their world with other men, and women too, had their own sphere. They raised children together, shared rituals, created strong female bonds. When men and women came together, it meant something. There was tension, there was contrast. That rare meeting preserved mystery, and mystery preserved attraction. But we lost that. Today, we chase closeness at all costs. We're told to merge everything, our homes, our time, our inner lives. We're told that true love means constant availability. But what no one tells us is that overexposure is the death of desire. Access kills longing. Familiarity breeds comfort, but it also breeds indifference. You no longer see her as other, you see her as the same. And that sameness makes you feel confused because this is the person you love. And yet, the fire is gone. That's not your fault. That's biology. The Westermarck effect, remember that? The subconscious repulsion that forms when people grow up too close together. That's not just about siblings. That same closeness, that same daily exposure, that same constant presence, you're recreating that with your partner. And you're shocked when desire fades. You shouldn't be. It's not about effort. It's not about communication or couples, therapy or buying flowers every Friday. It's about structure. It's about polarity. It's about preserving mystery in a world that insists on destroying it. And here's the deeper cut. When she becomes emotionally closer, she often becomes physically less compelling. You've seen too much. There's no room left for projection. You've decoded every mystery, and then we feel this deeply, but we don't know what to do with it. No one gives us the vocabulary, so we spiral. We question our masculinity. We wonder if we've aged out of desire. We get anxious, or numb, or quietly resentful. But Schopenhauer, he just nods. He says, yes, of course, that's the system, that's the will, that's the spell ending. And he adds something even bolder. This isn't your downfall. This is your evolution. You're not less of a man because you're no longer obsessed. You're more of one. You're seeing past the illusion. You're waking up from the trance. And yet, the world punishes that. Masculinity today is still judged by performance, by hunger, by conquest. Want more? Chase more. Prove your value by how badly you want it, how many women, how often, how intense. But what if true masculinity is the opposite? What if strength isn't about craving, but about detachment, about what you can walk away from? That's the shift Schopenhauer invites you into, a quiet, internal rebellion, not against women, not against sex, but against the illusion that either of those things can complete you, against the idea that the flame is supposed to burn forever. It's not. The man who outgrows desire isn't broken. He's chosen. Schopenhauer called it negation of the will. It sounds bleak, but it's not. It's not depression. It's not failure. It's not giving up. It's stepping back from the madness. It's choosing clarity over compulsion, awareness over obsession, he said. The more clearly we think, the more we shall see that the real aim of life is not enjoyment, but the negation of the will. In other words, the game was never meant to satisfy you. It was meant to trap you. And when you finally stop playing not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom, you reclaim something nature borrowed, your agency. It's lonely though, because no one celebrates this milestone. There are no parties for men who wake up. There's no trophy for seeing clearly, just silence, stillness, and maybe, finally, peace. Peace isn't glamorous. It's not sexy. It doesn't sell cologne or movie tickets. But peace is what waits for you after the illusions fall away. It's not the absence of meaning, it's the beginning of it. And here's the final twist. What most men call love, Schopenhauer called captivity, a biological enchantment, a trap dressed up as destiny. And once that enchantment lifts, what you're left with isn't heartbreak, it's reality. You stop seeing her as a goddess. You see her as a woman. You stop mistaking lust for truth. You stop believing that your cravings were your own. And in that moment, for the first time, you step into authenticity. Now, is that an easy place to be? No, but it's real. And in part 3, we'll explore what happens after this awakening, how to live, how to love, and how to lead when the illusion is gone but the clarity remains. So, what happens next? You've seen through it. The spell is broken. The fire that once consumed you has turned to smoke. The craving has left your body like a ghost. And in its place, a silence, a space, a stillness you didn't expect. Now you're not chasing, you're not performing. You're not burning with that same madness, and the world doesn't know what to do with you. Because it doesn't understand men who aren't hunting. It doesn't know how to speak to men who are at peace, who are no longer dancing for biology. 2. The world, you might look like you've lost something, but the truth, you've just stopped playing a game that was never really about you. Schopenhauer said it best. A man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. You can't force yourself to want what you've already exhausted. You can't reignite a fire that was never truly yours. That fire belonged to nature. It had a purpose. And once that purpose was fulfilled or denied, it was gone. And what remains is clarity. Now let's be honest. Clarity can be misdiagnosed. The modern world will label it as depression, numbness, a sign that something is broken. You're not excited anymore, and they think that's a problem. But what if it's not? What if it's the beginning of truth? What if the silence inside you isn't the absence of meaning but the presence of it? Schopenhauer understood this. He didn't write to glamorize the chase. He didn't tell men to chase more, desire more, conquer more. He told them to step back, to see through it, to recognize the fire for what it really was, a spectacle, a performance, a manipulation of the will, and to walk away. Not out of fear, not out of bitterness, but out of freedom. You see, every man takes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world. That's Schopenhauer again. We think our cravings define us, that our impulses are who we are. But when the veil lifts, when you're no longer bound by that craving, you realize how narrow your vision once was. You start to ask harder questions. What was I really chasing? Why did I need her to want me? Why did I believe that desire meant meaning? And suddenly you see it. What you called love was often dependency. What you called passion was sometimes addiction. What you called chemistry, a biological glitch, a misfiring of the nervous system designed to keep you loyal to nature's script. And now, the script is over. The scene has ended. The curtain has fallen, and you're left on stage, blinking in the quiet. Now comes the real choice. Most men, when faced with this stillness, panic. They try to relight the fire. They chase new women, new highs, new illusions, affairs, fantasies, escapes. But none of it works, not for long, because the misunderstanding remains, that your fading desire is a problem to fix instead of a truth to understand. Your drive isn't infinite. It's targeted. It's not meant to burn endlessly. It's meant to push, to compel. And once the target is known, possessed, understood, the tension is gone. And so is the fire. That energy doesn't disappear, redirects, it goes looking for new purpose. And that's where most men get lost, because they don't know where else to aim it. But Schopenhauer had an answer. Not escape, not indulgence, not endless chasing, but transcendence. He believed in turning away from the false promise of fulfillment through consumption and, instead, turning toward discipline, toward clarity, toward meaning not found in others, but forged within. He said, the more clearly we think, the more we shall see that the real aim of life is not enjoyment, but the negation of the will. That's not a rejection of life, it's a deeper acceptance of what life really is, of what you really are. When you're not being pulled by strings you didn't know existed. To outgrow desire is not 2 diets to awaken, to become more of yourself, not less. You're not dull, you're not broken, you're not in decline, you're stepping beyond the illusion. You see, the world still thinks masculinity is about conquest, about performance, about how many, how fast, how hard. But real masculinity, real maturity, it might be about what you can let go of, about what you can walk away from. That's power. Not needing the flame, not being ruled by it, not mistaking. That burning ache for truth, that is the real initiation. Not your first kiss, not the first time you slept with her, not your wedding. The real threshold. It's the moment you look at the thing you once worshipped and feel stillness instead of fire. Not because you don't care, but because you've evolved. And if this resonates, if this feels like truth, you're not alone. There are millions of men silently waking up, quietly questioning, grieving what they thought was permanent, wondering why the thrill is gone. They're not weak, they're not sick, they're in awakening, just like you, and they need to hear this. Not from a therapist, not from a motivational speaker, but from another man who's been there, who knows what it's like to feel the hunger fade and the silence move in, who knows the loneliness of clarity and the power that waits on the other side of it. So if you've made it this far, speak, share this, pass it on, give voice to the men who are still stuck in shame. Show them that it's not the end, it's the beginning. That what they're feeling isn't collapse, it's the shedding of illusion, that they're not broken, they're simply stepping out of the fire and into peace. Not the kind of peace that comes with a perfect life. Not the fake peace sold in self-help books or weekend retreats, but the kind of peace that comes from knowing, I am no longer enslaved by what once ruled me. That is power, that is freedom. That is the beginning of manhood, unshackled, unmanipulated, and fully awake. If you felt this, like the video, share it, subscribe, support this message, because truth, this raw, this honest, doesn't get amplified unless you push it forward. You're not broken, you're becoming free. And that changes everything.